do hope that you had a wonderful weekend and you're doing your best with what you have. What do I have in today's program? Well, I've got a gentleman who's an Igbo man, and the Igbos have got something coming up towards the end of this month or at the beginning of next month. Can you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Mazi Obi Okoli, and fellow viewers, I greet you with the greetings of peace. In my native language, we say Udo Diri Ono, which means may peace be upon you.
Now, you have a festival coming up, and normally this program is, we do quite a lot of, I've met a lot of politicians here. I've met a lot of people who are in very different, fields, as I can say. And but the thing is, you're in a very different field altogether. Could you tell our viewers what the whole thing is all about that you're involved in?
The Igbos are a major nation that currently exists in Nigeria. We're about 70 million people.
70.
About 70 million Igbos occupy the central, eastern part of Nigeria. Are predominantly Christians, and we've got a major percentage of traditional worshippers. And we are people who believe so much in our cultural heritage. And we believe that the culture of a people defines them, defines their mindset, defines their thought and actions, and even their behavior in public spaces. And that is one reason why the Igbos, we do not play with our culture. And we try as much as possible to pass those cultural heritage and gift from our ancestors to our generations and the generations unborn.
Now, you have a festival coming up on the 13th.
That's correct.
It's a massive one in North London, and you're going to have Igbos coming from all walks of life to attend that. But there's a genuine worry. It's just one of the things that I picked up when I was going through this, and that is the political worry. I wouldn't normally want to bring this in, but because of the civil war that happened in Nigeria a couple of years ago, not a couple, in fact, over 20, 30 years ago, there's a genuine worry that when the Igbos get together, the central government panics or sneezes or something like that. Should they worry at all with the things like Namno Kanu now coming into the pipeline? Should they get worried?
I think they should be worried, because initially they said we were not united. They said the Igbos cannot speak with one voice. We faced a war between 1967, lost over 3 million people who were slaughtered and murdered, and nobody gave us the opportunity or even the belief that we will rise again. And from the ashes of 20 pounds given back to us, we came back, and we have done very well for ourselves. So it is a genuine worry from them when they see us together, united, which they said was not possible. But the thing people don't understand about the Igbo race, the Igbos are very unique. We are a communal people, and we believe that any person who wants to lead us has to have a very high level of sincerity and goodness in him. And when the Igbos see such people, we tend to follow them. But when we see deceit and treachery in front of us, we don't follow such people. So people don't understand the makeup of the Igbo nation, our culture, our tradition, our beliefs, our knowledge and experience over centuries. This has built us together. And
what makes them what makes it more unique than the rest of Nigeria, to that of the other Nigerians?
One thing I can tell you for sure is that the Igbos are very highly educated. They are very hardworking.
Okay.
They do not differentiate. I mean, you hardly find an Igbo person that is tribalistic or racist to any person. We believe that our environment, anybody can come into our environment and thrive. And we believe that our culture, our ways of thinking, our food, our clothing, everything that is unique about us, it's what makes us unique as a people. And that is what we try to protect, and that's what we try to project in everything we do. We stand out because we are genuinely a peace-loving people occupying the banks of West Africa.
Now, what makes the 7th festival unique? What's going to make it unique? You've had it, because you've invited even non-Igbos, you've invited non-Nigerians, you've invited, what's the uniqueness about that?
The uniqueness about it is that we want the world to come and see us for who we are and appreciate us, the way we do things, the way we exhibit our culture, the way we exhibit our craft, the way we exhibit our arts, the way we exhibit our traditional wrestling, our women, our children, how we take care of our family. When you come to this festival, the festival exposes you to an angle of the Igbo people that you never know.
Okay.
This festival is free. Food and drinks are free. We are not charging anybody to come in. And that is the unique hospitality of the Igbo people that most nations of the world do not understand. The Igbos are communal. The Igbos are people who love themselves. We carry each other in everything we do. You hardly find an Igbo person that is suffering, and you cannot find somebody who will come to the person's rescue and help the person. We love ourselves, and we try as much as possible to project that positive image to the world so that they can see us and appreciate us for who we are. And that is what we plan to do in this Igbo Festival of Arts and Culture.
Okay.
For the world to have a different mirror, to look at us and say, yes, these people are unique in what they do. They are unique in their ways, in their beliefs, and the way they exhibit themselves in public.
Yeah. How do you get the funding? Because it's unique. Is it crowdfunding you do to get the money, or just some richie boys just put the money down and?
Surprisingly, for the
Yeah.
past 7 years, we have self-funded this festival. We started off with 4 communities, and as I speak today, we're 110 communities coming on board. And the whole thing has been financed from WhatsApp group and nothing else. Yes.
Okay.
We have a WhatsApp group that we created, and every year our people come out in mass to say, we love what you're doing, from the Congress of Igbo Leaders, and they put in their time, their talent, and resources. And this is one day in the United Kingdom where every Igbo person will participate in this festival and not be paid. So from the TV adverts to the flyers, to the arrangement of the place, to the security and everything, we pay nobody. As long as you're Igbo, this is one day that you have to sacrifice your time, your talent, and your resources for the Igbo nation.
Now, can there be a way in which a non-Igbo, for example, tries to come in and wants to be? For example, I come from Uganda. I might say, look, let me go in and be where I can be of help, and maybe be of assistant here. And will I be allowed? Because there's that genuine fear that when the word comes that it's only Igbos, the word is mentioned, it's Igbo and not the whole Nigeria, and suddenly people turn back and say, well, it's not for me, it's for them. How are you going to manage that?
Over the years, we've had people from all walks of life, all tribes and nations attend the Igbo Festival of Arts and Culture.
Yeah.
The essence of the festival is not to show our festival and our culture to us. We already know it. We grew up with it. We have been part of it.
Okay.
All we are trying to do here is to showcase that culture in splendor to the non-Igbos, so that they can appreciate who we are and what makes us unique as Igbos. So everybody is welcome. We've had a Ugandan dance troupe attend our festival in 2014.
Yeah.
We've had South Africans attend our festival, and we have sent out an invitation to a lot of embassies in the world, both the Caribbeans, to come and see what is unique about the Igbo nation.
Okay.
And I guarantee you on the 13th of July, they will learn a lot about how we as people function. And to be very honest, we've had this festival. This is our 7th year festival. No incident. Nobody has been drunk beyond the level of, being arrested. But it's been a wonderful event. And people, even when you tell them to go at the end of the festival, they don't want to go because it is a communal.
Okay.
That typical African communal setting is what happens there. You come in and you can go into any canopy and say, I'm hungry, they will feed you. You need water, you get water. You need clothing, you will get it on the day.
Okay.
That's the only time we can show humanity the good side of the Igbo people that most of them have not known and have not come to appreciate.
Now, other Nigerians are going to look at this and say, okay, maybe they have their own festivals in one way or another. But if the whole thing turns out, the Yorubas have theirs, the Hausas have theirs, and so on, and it comes down. Is there possibility of a combined festival of saying, an overall Nigerian festival, for example. If that
Yeah.
such a thing comes in
I
mind?
think some 2-3 years ago there was a Nigerian festival being organized in London here, and a lot of all of us participated in it, and suddenly something happened. They died. I'm not privy to the information why it's no longer happening.
Yeah.
But for us, everybody is welcome. If there is a discussion in future for us to have a proper Nigerian festival, a lot of other nations have consulted us, and then we have passed information on how we organize our event. And in America, they are in their 4th year, the same festival
really?
happening in July in America, and in Germany they are warming up for the same thing. So it is spreading, and we hope that in future the whole Igbo nations worldwide in the 58 countries of the world where we all reside will be able to celebrate this festival in one day, and then the whole world will be able to appreciate who we are and what makes us unique.
Now, I'm sorry, I'm going back to the political angle again, because this is where, if the central government is worried about this, if you are going to sit down and hold this festival the way you do, it's completely an innocent way of you expressing your cultures and so on. But the genuine worry from the central government will not go away. I mean, we can go on this subject for a while, but it's such that if it's there, what kind of reassurance now to Buhari's government, to whoever in government who is not an Igbo man, can there be a way in which you could say, hang on a minute, come and join us, come and see what's going on? Because that genuine worry is not going to go away. It's going to be there, regardless of whether you're saying it's just a normal festival that's,
In all honesty, in the contemporary world today, truth is very scarce to hear.
Yeah.
Nigeria has a lot of problems that they should be worried about. There is massive killing in Nigeria. There is the kidnapping happening. There's a lot of high level of insecurity. The government is not functioning the way the people would want it.
Okay.
There is no development really happening in terms of industrialization. The economy is not doing very well. So the president, I think, should be more worried about how to keep Nigeria one as a nation and how to make Nigeria strive. If we say we are the giant of Africa, we should be, holding the torchlight of Africa. Or are we calling ourselves the giant of Africa just because we love the paradigm or the acronym to be called? So I think the Igbo Festival of Arts and Culture is just us representing us for who we are.
Okay.
And everybody is invited. We've extended invitation to the Nigerian community, to the Uganda, most Africans, Caribbeans, and the UK government. Mayors are going to be there. A lot of mayors are going to be there. And traditional rulers are flying in. So it is only the time for the British community. And when I mean the British community, I mean everybody here within the British community to come and appreciate who we are and what we stand for. I don't think the federal government of Nigeria should be worried that the Igbos are happy unless they have a serious plan to keep us down.
No, one other thing is if you look at, say, the influence you have and the voice that you have now that you're together, that voice can be used for something else as well. So look, as a festival, we had meetings. We have decided we're going to raise, the way you're raising money for this festival. I said, okay, we're going to build a hospital in Nigeria, or we're going to do this in Nigeria. Could that be of a much more relevance if someone looks at it in that sort of angle? Because we tried it in Uganda. I said, okay, we get together, build this, and then suddenly that voice is there. Because people in diaspora, the only thing we can do for the other people left in Africa is to try and develop them in a way. And I'm looking at giving that as an example. But is there any other way you now, like you, for example, in your position in that organization, where you can use that organization to do something, not just maybe for Nigeria, but to use that voice to reach out for something else in Africa? Because there's a tendency we never tend to do that. Once the festival is finished, that's the end of it. And until next year's festival.
That's a very good question, and I tell you that when I did mention earlier that we are about 110 communities coming,
and you're 70 million people. Remember,
in Nigeria, and these communities are all unique communities in their own, pride, and they have a lot of them have done so well in terms of bringing foreign direct investment into the country, building hospitals, helping the motherless in Nigeria. I know of a group that has been doing so well in the agro-allied industry, bringing a lot of investors from Amsterdam and even the UK here to go and invest in a state like Anambra State. Imo State, with the fantastic new governor we have in place, is doing very well. Enugu has already started and they're keen in. So you see that within us as people, all these respective community organizations are having impact. And again, if you look at the foreign direct investment, foreign earning going back to Nigeria, the Igbos export, I will use the word export, over 74 million yearly to Nigeria and to Africa generally. And so you can imagine how many people, how many lives that money is touching. We are paying school fees for a lot of people. We are taking care of the old people. Pensioners are not being paid. Somebody's taking care of them. So you find out that there's a lot of benefit for all these organizations coming together. And we as Congress of Igbo leaders, all we need to do is to help and create that enabling environment and synergy for us to understand that we have somewhere we came from and we can make a great impact in the lives of our people back home.
Right. How did you come to that position to be part of the Congress of Igbo leaders? How did you get elected, or you're simply selected by, you could be selected by somebody from above? And then suddenly we are, what kind of fairness is there? Because if it's there, what kind of, anyway, I better let you explain.
If you look at the Igbo society, we have a structure in the Igbo nation that we refer to as the Omonna. Now, the Omonna is a gathering where every person goes to. You don't need to be elected to be there. And the oldest person or the eldest person or the community will decide to say, this is the person that we want to be our leader. So we do not pass through the standard electoral process in the prehistorical period. We have the Omonna structure, we have the Ada structure, which are the women, and they are like a Supreme Court in Igbo land.
Really?
And then we have the Council of Elders, we have the Council of Undins, and also the people who hold the symbol of truth. So we have a unique structure, and what we did with the Congress of Igbo Leaders, I have to tell you something very unique. No member of the Congress of Igbo Leaders pays dues to us.
Really?
We don't pay dues, no. We are a Congress, a participating organization structured in the same format as the Omonna, where we all gather under the trees in those days and we talk and we plan together. And that's what the Congress is all about. So I have been fortunate to be the coordinator for 7 years, and God bless my soul. I hope to retire and give space to another person to carry on with the torchlight. So that is the structure we have, and that's the unique thing about the Congress of Igbo Leaders. We don't ask any person to be a member, or we don't ask you to pay a dues to be a member. Just come in with your intellect, with your your vision and ideas, and we will all listen to it. And if your ideas are good, that's how we came with the Igbo Festival of Arts and Culture.
The structure of somebody who's going to govern is seen from the beginning of the source. Say, look, I think we've notified so and so is going to be a good leader. Let's pull him away from the rest so that we give him a position here, and that to the Igbos and the other African way. Anyway, that's how it was always done. But then again, it comes with the elders. The elders come in, they give, they have ways in which they observe those that they pick out as leaders. Is that the kind of thing that we call Omna, where the
Omna structure is all the children of the community coming together to decide on how the community is run and listen to the elders who, because of the years of experience, they have the wisdom and they impact it on the younger generation and the generations to come. And that is the structure we have. We have the traditional rulers, which we call the Ezes and the Igwes. They are the custodians of the society. We have the chief priest, who is the custodian of the deity that govern and sometimes helps in making the laws that govern the society. And then we have structures. We have the Akaji of us, we have the women group, we have the youths organizations. And that is this format that we have in the Igbo society. And that's how we have thrived over the years and been able to come to this level where we are today, and we can call ourselves a nation that we are proud of.
Yeah. Now, Ojukwu once said that the problem with we the Igbos was the fact that our welcoming, our welcome, in the way we welcome others, and the way we let others be part of us easily, is our downfall. Do you believe he was right?
Our ancestors left a very cosmopolitan society for us. In the Igbo cosmology, when a visitor comes into your house, the first thing you do is offer him a glass of water.
Yeah.
And then you offer the person kola nut, which means I have accepted you to be in my house. Now, as soon as the person finishes, you have welcomed the person and made the person comfortable, it is now left for the person to show himself either good or bad or evil. Now, it depends on what the person does. That's how then you know how to relate with the person moving forward.
Okay.
What Ojukwu said could be true, that we let our guards down. We welcome people with open hearts. But it is who we are. And we have paid a price for it. In 1967, we paid a price, lost 3 million people. We've continued to pay the same price because that has been our nature. We've gone to other parts of Nigeria. We've invested so much in the development of those communities. And sometimes they treat us with hostility. But again, it comes back to us to then redefine and rethink our strategy. No culture is static.
Yeah.
Culture is dynamic.
Yeah.
So as we progress and we learn from these experiences and things that have happened to us historically and contemporary, we can then go back to say, enough is enough. We need to rethink our strategy and the way we act and begin to make amends and change things, not change everything, because we can't change who we are. God created us uniquely as Igbos, and that is one thing nobody can take from us. We are a universal people. We go into communities, we don't mind, we help every person. And when you come into the Igbo community, you're welcome. You will find an Igbo person fight a fellow Igbo person who is maltreating you. Because everybody will say, is it because he's a foreigner? You can't treat him if he was a national. So we protect foreigners in our territory. It could be a weak point. It could be something that is disadvantageous to us, but it's just who we are. It's the way God has created us to receive visitors and treat them humanely and with equitable, behavior, the way we will want others to be treated. I mean, ours to be treated when we go to other people's nation.
How about divisions? You also have divisions among you. I could sit here and then mention names and go with that, but I don't want to be here the whole night discussing.
We actually don't have division.
In a formula of trying to make that unity as the festival is.
We have unity in Igbo land, but we have divergence of opinion. And the divergence of thinking, which is human. So you find out that you will say, I want to do it this way, and somebody else will say, no, I want it the other way. And all we need to do is find a rallying point where we say, yes, your opinion is right, mine is right. Can we find a convergence in the middle and agree? Like in the politics, they say we agree to disagree. So every opinion is important to us. Some might look at it and say, oh, these people are divided because of the way and manner in which some present their facts or their attitude towards each other. But in overall, the Igbos are very united people. They understand each other. And if you had the opportunity of growing up in the village that I had the singular opportunity of growing up in, because it gives you a different level of wisdom. You see things that ordinary people who live in the cities would not see, because they do not understand the wisdom inherent in our ancestors and our elders, which they impact into you over the years. You attend meetings with them and you see things that you will never learn in any institution. So like my father said, he said, you have to learn to be beautiful from your house to appear outside. If you're looking untidy from your house, that's how you will appear outside. So that's what we believe. Learn the culture, learn the people, understand the mindset of the people you're working with, and then treat them with equity, fairness, and justice.
Okay. Now, I've always been drawn back to the issue of Nigeria as the whole country, rather than one particular region. You have the political situation, as you have explained, is something which is in a mess. The election of Buhari probably was that something, re-election of him, something could be fixed. The situation, if someone asks you, what should Nigeria do? What can happen now? How can this country be fixed with all the money and all the money that it has to go? Has anybody ever come up with a magic formula? Because the way you discuss the Igbos, someone, maybe they put an Igbo man up there as a head of state to say.
Not really. Even if you put an Igbo man in Nigeria today as president, I think the truth is that any nation, let's take Ghana for instance. For the past decades now, look at Ghana thriving because they have a good leader who understands how a nation is to be run. Look at Rwanda.
The Ghanaians may think different.
no, Ghana is doing well compared to, if you look at the resources they've got, if you look at the manpower they've got, and you look at the level of development over the past 8 years, you will definitely know that Ghana is doing well. Then compare that to Nigeria with all the resources that we have, with all the income that we generate internally and externally, and look at where we are. Now compare that to Rwanda. After the genocide, they picked up, they are doing fantastically well. Does it surprise you to know that Nigerians fly Air Ethiopia? Ethiopia was at war with Eritrea for so many years. Now, where is Ethiopia today? Doing fantastically well. Don't talk about Botswana. Don't talk about Namibia. These have been stable economies. Although they do not have the oil that we have, some of these countries I've mentioned, but they are thriving economically. Then you look at Nigeria with 120, close to 170 million people.
Almost 200.
How many million barrels of oil do we export a day? And yet our people are suffering in penury. So there is no magic formula. The thing is that Nigeria is embedded in corruption. And I don't know, I don't see any leader coming up in the next future. Because even when Buhari leaves, they are already trading places, looking for the next person. Where is he going to come from? The same PDP, APC, and every other party. The same people that we've known all our lives. They are the same people that will come into rule. So if you venture into politics, you will find out that Nigerian politics is very, very dirty. Nigerian politics is expensive. For you to be a senator, you need more than 200 million naira to go for the position of a senator. Some people even spend close to $1 billion. So where do they get the money from? And how much is the senator taking? You find out that a senator in Nigeria earns more than Trump, the president of America. Compare their salary, their sitting allowance and everything. So we imported a system into our country that is alien to us. This system does not work in Africa. This sort of democracy that we're practicing in Africa, we need to have a rethink, we Africans, to ask ourselves, all these imported doctrines and religion and democracy, is it working? Is it helping our people? Because for me, I don't see why we have senators when we have a written constitution, honestly. I don't see why we're paying the House of Assemblies. They could be part-time. I don't see why we're paying the House of Representatives. So Nigeria is spending close to 60% of his budget in just non-productive sectors of the economy. Meanwhile, the doctors are not paid. We have exported the highest migrants in the medical sector to the world. Our nurses are leaving. So you find out that who is going to change Nigeria when Buhari leaves? He's going to find another steward to stand in his place to kind of protect his integrity, in quote. Right? So the next person will keep doing, it will be, there won't be a tabula rasa in Nigeria. There will not be. So it is what Fela some years said, suffering and smiling. And how long it's going to continue, I don't know. How long will the center hold? Because as we speak, the center
it's not holding.
It's not holding.
Now, Gaddafi once said that there was a problem when when Nigeria was, the British made Nigeria, made Nigeria independent. the northern part of Nigeria should have been on its own as another state, and the southern part of Nigeria should have been on its own. And in fact, he's sort of suggested that if there was a way, Nigeria could break up in two countries and the northern becomes a different country, the south becomes a different country. This idea was brought on as well when Namna Kanu, the one I mentioned, at one of the rallies, I think he spoke about it and said, look, maybe it's high time we start thinking in terms of breaking up so that these guys in the north are on their own because of religion and we in the south are on our own, so that maybe these two nations will prosper, because the fact that they are together, they are not prospering. Do you see that as a solution to the problem?
The truth about this question you asked me is very, very important, but let me answer it in the most diplomatic way I can.
Yeah.
Now go back to the Berlin Conference.
Yeah.
That was where Africa was partitioned.
Yeah.
So you now find Hutus in Burundi, Hutus in Rwanda. You find the conflict in Cameroon, the southern Cameroon, and the Cameroon, the English-speaking and the French-speaking. You find the same in Nigeria, 250-something to 270-something tribes brought together to form one nation. You find that everywhere in Africa. The white man sat in Berlin, not understanding, not minding, not even caring about your culture, my belief, my systems of understanding things. They just sat there and said, for the administrative reasons, this is what will happen. So filter that back to Nigeria. We have 270-something, 75. People say 255, but I say 275 ethnic nationalities being brought together to form one country. So you have the Muslim predominantly in the south, in the north. You have the mixture of Muslim and Christians in the south, and then the 100% Christians in the east. So you find that these are three different nations that have existed before the white man came and decided to amalgamate us. Remember, we were not a nation. They said they had to amalgamate us in 1914. So the amalgamation simply means, whether you like it or not, I want to force you to be one, to live like good enemies, but pretending to be, loving enemies. And that is what is happening. You look at the composition of the Buhari administration. 99% of his appointment is to the north and some to the south, neglecting the entire east. He does not care. Is that what you would expect from a leader? But look at all other African countries that are thriving. They have broken down tribalism, which I do not call tribalism, I call it racism. They have broken down racism because we Africans, we say, because you're this tribe and this tribe is tribalism. No, it's racism. When you stop somebody from achieving what the person needs to achieve because of the tribe, the color or race or sex of the person, I call that racism. So we are practicing racism, and Nigeria has disintegrated currently into an apartheid system. Buhari has introduced a new form of apartheid. But nobody is looking at it pragmatically because currently some people are enjoying from the feeds that fall from the master's table. So he has now completely, like in South Africa, the whites removing the blacks. And he has now said, to hell with you, Igbos, we don't need you. Whatever you want to do. We've got the ammunitions, we can kill you. And that's what happened with Nnamdi Kanu, saying, can we have a discussion? Can we have a referendum to decide if we want to be part of Nigeria? Because the amalgamation of 1914 collapsed after 100 years. And last year, 2 years ago, was the 100th year. So should we not have a national conference to decide on how we can run a viable nation? Even if it is confederation, even if it is sitting back and looking at the constitution again and reviewing this constitution if we really believe honestly and with integrity that we want to be a nation. Buhari is not putting anything in place that will show anybody that he's interested in having one Nigeria. So you are seeing the Fulanis running rampage, killing people, murdering children, raping women, and the federal government is paying them ransom instead of dealing with them. But look at the high-headedness with which they dealt with the Biafran struggle. They brought down all the ammunitions down to the east and killed innocent young men and women who were only demonstrating. They never killed anybody. They never harmed anybody. they believed that their voice should speak for them.
Yeah.
But he murdered them in cold blood.
There was that fear. There's that fear factor anyway. They had to. They had to act because of the fear factor, and it's the same fear factor that I'm talking about when I look at a festival like this, which could, that's why I keep going back to it.
Yeah, I don't know why Nigeria is afraid to have an African country thrive. We are today flying with Air Ethiopia. We are flying with Turkish Airline. Ghana is doing fantastically well. Nigerians are migrating. Our best minds are leaving the nation. Can't somebody just look at it? If there is a Biafran today, for instance, there is an Oduduwa, Africa will be the best for it. We will have this competition amongst ourselves and show the world that we can do better than we are doing today. I think it's pure treachery for anybody to look at somebody who wants to survive, who wants to advance in nature and say, no, you don't have the right to aspire to good things. We want to wake up with water running. We want to have electricity. We want our children to go to school. We want safe neighborhood. We want to be like the West. We want the West to come for asylum in Africa. And we can achieve that.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible.
Yes, we can. They came uninvited earlier in the 60s, in the 30s. They came with their ship without visa. Now we have to come with visa. Yes, that was how thriving we were in Africa. So I don't understand what Nigerian problem is. If you say a child should not cry, then don't beat the child.
Yeah.
You cannot beat a child and say don't cry. That is wickedness. If they want Nigeria to work, Nigeria can work. But do they have that genuine desire to work, to make Nigeria work? What is happening in Cameroon? The Christians in the English-speaking part of Cameroon has been marginalized for years.
Yeah.
Do you see what is happening there? Civil war is going now.
Yeah.
They are killing people. The resources they are spending, buying all this ammunition from Russia and wherever they are buying it, they could use it to have developed the southern part of Nigeria. Yeah. Same thing happening in Nigeria. Same thing. Everywhere in the world where there is injustice, lack of equity and fairness, revolution is always imminent.
Yeah.
And that's why when Nnamdi came up, did you see the voice, how he had people supporting him?
Of course,
all the youth, even the elders were in support of him secretly, but some of the politicians didn't want to say because they knew he was saying the truth, that we are marginalized. But instead of the federal government saying, let us study,
have a look at it,
and look at this thing, review their concerns. Can we, ameliorate these concerns? Can we deal with it? When you have a defect, you don't ignore the defect. It blows up your whole system.
Of course.
Now you have to deal with the defect and then make sure that your system, your environment, your computer or whatever, even your iPhone is defect-free. That is the only time you can enjoy the functions of that application, of that nation, of the people. But when Nigeria is not doing the same thing, how can you expect everybody to be silent, watch their women being raped, watch their people being killed by the Fulani people, and nobody saying anything?
Martin Luther King once said that if there's something that you want and you want to get it, you fight for it. You can't get it, you have all the chances of trying to do that. Now I'm looking at Nigerians in diaspora who are in millions, and you have come up, you are organizing a festival as big as this. Can't there be something similar to this and put it together and say, okay, I think we need to do something about home? Because although it's worrying the federal government, but at the same time it could also be something that you say, okay, now we're here, we have a voice, these are things happening. Can we use the same voice as we're using it for the festival? Because the festival, people are going to turn up, they're in large numbers, they enjoy themselves, the culture is good, but then at the same time, they also got to find a way of saying, hang on a minute, but we're here.
I tell you the truth.
Can we do something about it?
Yes.
Because if we don't make noise.
Something has been done already. We have an organization called Kanuk.
Okay.
We've got an organization called NIDO. These are Nigerian organizations. Yeah. The problem with Nigeria dates back to even before Christ. The elders, the politicians.
Before Christ,
I tell you the truth, the politicians, the elders have so much fermented us with hate. We have grown with dislike for one another. Now, when you see a typical Nigerian the first question he would ask you, like the Germans will do, which tribe do you, what's your name? The moment you say your name, he puts you in a wardrobe.
Where you're coming from.
That already, there's a curtain. He decides, how do I want to relate with this person? Like if you go to Germany, the first question a German would ask you is, where do you come from? How long have you been living in Germany? When do you plan to go back? And that is the same thing most Nigerians do. They see you, they ask you your name. Then from there, they already know your tribe. They already know your religion. You find that a blocker already exists. This is something that has been there. Our elders, our politicians put it in us. If you look at the coup that happened before the Civil War, they called it an Igbo coup. Although 90% of the officers were not Igbos. The people who carried out that coup were not Igbos. But they called it an Igbo coup. That led to the massacre of 3 million Igbos. And that has not left the conscience of the Igbos. If the North has a conscience, they should have known that having killed more than 3 million of our people, we deserve better than we're getting today. We are one of the tribes that have sacrificed so much for Nigeria. I bet any other person to say, to prove me wrong. We are everywhere in Nigeria. We've invested our time, our talent, and resources. What are we getting in return? Second-class citizen? And how long will this happen? We don't know. So it is possible for Nigeria to be united, like I said earlier. But we need a leader that is more than Nelson Mandela. We need a leader that is more than Mobutu Seko Seko. We need a leader that is more than Sankara. We need a leader that is more than Jerry Rawlings. All these people I'm mentioning, a lot of other positive leaders in Africa, we need all of them to be merged in one person to salvage Nigeria.
Really?
That's the truth.
Now, I want to go back to the festival. It's planned a year in advance. You get everybody to come down. As you said, good food, enjoy themselves, go through all the cultural festival that makes you Igbos who you are. And I don't know whether the whole thing after the festival is over and you have the teachings of the, your language to the children, or you have, I don't know what else you do other than the fact that there's music, there's drama, there's, what else do you do?
The festival is just one of the things that we do. And the Congress of Igbo Leaders, we equally, we have the educational department that is responsible for research into Igbo culture, the training and education of the Igbo race. We've got the different strategic planning, which helps in, we kind of contribute to meaningful umbrella organizations in Igbo land in terms of helping them achieve proper strategy that can elevate the lives of Igbo people. We partner with Igbo Development Foundation, which is a powerful organization in Igbo land that is really working towards developing the consortiums for development in our place. And then we've got the culture and traditional department. We've got so many. We've got the investment department. These are supposed to be looking for the foreign direct investors that will go back to Nigeria and invest.
So it's not simply cultural something when we say
no.
You sit down and you have your fun, your culture, your language, your so you also look back and say, okay, what kind of a development can we take into Igbo land? What kind of So in other words, it's a kind of a meeting place where you can meet up and come up with ideas,
It's a congress. We meet, we exchange ideas, we exchange vision, we talk to each other about things that we can do. We receive feeds from Nigeria, the core major organizations in Nigeria. They give us feeds on what is happening in Nigeria. We then find out how we can partner with them, how we can respond to such feeds that we get. Some of them are very positive feeds. Some of them are negative feeds. They tell us things areas that we can bring foreign direct investors into Nigeria. We've been, since the current governor of Imo State came in, Chief Emeka Ihedioha, he's reached out to diaspora and a lot, and a lot of us went back to Nigeria 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago to be precise. And we met up with him. A lot of us have had meetings with him, and he's very genuinely interested in getting the diaspora to come home. Peter Obi did the same thing in Anambra State. Enugu State is engaging a lot of our people. Abia State is lukewarm to a very large extent. So we are seeing a lot of engagement between us and Nigeria, and the governors and the leaders in Nigeria, in terms of how we can help. It's not enough giving money. There's a new creating 1 million jobs that is coming up soon. That is what the target is, that every Igbo person in diaspora should do something to create one job.
Oh, really?
Even if it means giving somebody money to sell water.
Okay.
Just create employment, empower somebody. And we believe that if we create 1 million jobs in the whole of Igbo land, the same 1 million people will empower another 1 million people, and then the pyramid will grow. So there's a new philosophy in Igbo land which we call Akuruno. Let your wealth come home. It's not enough just buying up all the properties here. Come into Nigeria, try and invest in property investment too. The people are there to buy, So we are beginning to re-educate our people to think home equally. Be comfortable where you are, but remember where you come from.
Now, but the thing is, how sure are you that the money gets home? Because that's another thing, as you said, empowerment and so on, and then you raised the money. How sure are you? Because corruption being at its peak in Africa, you may say one individual empowering another one and so on. It's easier said than done.
The best way you do things like this, which I've seen happen, I know of recently some Americans went back to Nigeria, precisely my village, to do something. And the way they did it was that they went home and made sure the project was successful. They had a very successful medical project in my town. And they went home themselves, they got the nurses, the doctors, and made sure they went to the villages and made sure it happened. People are opening boreholes. Before we would send money and say open, no. Build boreholes or build infrastructure. No, people go home now and make sure the project is started and finished. We've been hot in the past, and African proverb says that somebody stung by a bee is always scared of a big fly. So if you've had the experience we've had, I was home recently. I went to invest myself and see my investment start. So and I know how to monitor the investment. So I think the experience we are all getting is richly encouraging us to go back. There are very honest people in Igbo land, and there are the bad people. But if you're lucky to find the very honest people, I have been blessed to find some of them. Some of the projects I've had to develop in Nigeria was developed by people who have not betrayed me up till today. And I've gone to see what I've asked them to do, and they deliver to specification. So religion is doing well. It is touching the conscience of...
I was going to go there as well.
It's touching the conscience of some people, and they are doing well.
It's touching the conscience, but it's also become more of a trade, a business now. Because somebody once told me, he said, look, every corner you turn in Nigeria, there's a church somewhere. And the pastors, Nigeria has some of the richest pastors in Africa. And this is one of the things that culturally, being a festival, is one of the things that I guess, if you sit down and there are discussions that are to be held, and you're talking about issues, I think this is one of the issues that you should bring out and say, look, it's touching our conscience and it's affecting us as Nigerians and as Africans as a whole, that we have very rich pastors and yet we have very poor people.
I think
is there an angle there which
I think Karl Marx was right when he described religion as the opium of the masses. Now, religion has eaten deep into Africa, not just Nigeria, not just the Igbo race. The entire Africa has lost hope. What they are currently doing is they are looking for spiritual intervention in the affairs of men, that men should be able to intervene themselves and work. Now you have a country that there is no job,
Yeah.
right? The government is not creating employment. I challenge the Buhari administration to release the number of employed people, jobs that he created since being in power.
Yeah.
So you have people without hope. So religion offers them that
Yeah,
solace
sort of, yeah.
to go in. And then typical thing that will happen, the Bible says that you should test every spirit, that there will be good, bad, and evil, but I've given you the opportunity to choose what you want. So you find a lot of pastors today that are McDonald pastors, and they come in and they rip you. You go to McDonald, you do your drive away, and they give you what you want because they understand the mindset of the people.
Okay.
So in Africa today, we are buying blessing, which is free, was given to us free. That was why Christ died on the cross, if I understand my religion perfectly. And now we are paying for it. So you're paying for blessing, you're paying for prayers, and the pastor prays for you. You have to bless him with money. You don't bless him back with blessing of God, but he blesses you with what? You bless him with money. I don't know how many pastors that are blessing their audience with money. So the whole thing is that Africa generally needs to take a stop and go back and say, are we doing the right thing? I'm not saying it's not good to be religious, but the way and manner with which Africa is practicing religion today will affect us in the next years to come. We will have a generation that will not work hard, a generation that will believe in spiritual, supernatural intervention instead of us being, creative and doing things that we ought to do. No industry is thriving today in Nigeria than churches and mosques.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the biggest thriving industry. So you ask yourself, nobody is creating, and all these multi-billion pounds and dollar churches in Nigeria, none of them can boast of one factory. Not even a toothpick factory. So all the money they get, they use it in buying private jets. You ask them, they say they use it to preach. How many airports are in Nigeria that are functioning? So where are they flying to preach? Right? And every part of Nigeria you can reach in 6 hours, for God's sake. So why all these private jets? They are not doing. So you look at it, the people need to question themselves and do a soul search. Is there a limit to everything? The white man brought religion, but we are in the UK today. You go to the churches, what is happening?
There are very few of them there.
What is happening? They are doing everything that the Bible says we shouldn't do. I'm not saying Africa should do that, but we need to take a step back. If we build Africa to be what it's supposed to be, we can worship God in spirit and in truth. That's what he wants. We should not be worshiping God in tears. He said, worship me in spirit and in truth.
Now, education is a key word I've always asked. And when you educate people, you educate the nation. When you educate women, you educate the nation. When you educate other people, kids or anything, people come out with their, brains open, and they know that. Now, with the festival, these are some of the things that I feel we should be discussing and said, look, we are going to make sure that there are probably 10 to 15 schools that are going to be built, or there are more than this and that we're going to do, because with education, people will go out there and do things themselves, once they have learned the trade of working and so on. Because with our educational structures in Africa, we get the degrees and then we start looking for jobs. But you can have a degree and try and invent something and try and do something else.
I tell you the truth.
We should look at that angle more now.
I can honestly tell you that education is not the problem of Nigeria. Nigeria pulls out close to 40,000 graduates every year. And these graduates have no job. We should even be looking at the structure of education that we have. I believe that skill acquisition is what Nigeria should be looking at. We should be investing in tomorrow, in technology. Information technology is the key. We should be investing in agriculture, in export. These are things that
they all need money.
The money is there in the nation. It's just that 110 people in Nigeria have all the money that 170 million people do not have. If this money is equitably being distributed, if we have a vision-led government that can plan, build industries, create the enabling environment for foreign direct investors to come and invest and get the return on investment, you will find out that education, we have the highest number of educated people. The average family in Nigeria has their citizens, their children have like 2 master's degree.
Yeah.
So education, I have 2 master's degree. What did I do with it in Nigeria? It is here that I'm being valued and I'm using it to work.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we have people with PhD, they don't have a job.
Yeah.
So it's not education. We lack the education that will prepare Africa for the next millennium.
Now, we're coming towards the end of the program, and there's this question which I've always asked and I've always found, but the cultural backgrounds of Africa, and definitely the cultures, the Igbo culture, women are always marginalized sometimes. I'm not saying it's a thing that happens every now and then, but I don't know whether during the festival and other times there is that level of educating men as well, as far as the taking care of women is concerned, because that's something which is affecting us now. Our cultures look at men looking after women, but with education, with highly educated women nowadays, the stories are reversed. Women are breadwinners. I've seen so many.
I can answer you that question in 1 second. In the Igbo society is defined role for all her citizens. The men have their defined role, the women have their defined role, the children have their role, the youths have their roles. Now, where you find inherent conflict is when one group wants to assume the responsibility of the other group. But I tell you the truth, in Congress of Igbo leaders, our women...
Have you got women among the
powerful women, powerful, educated,
are they in leadership
intelligent roles? Women, all in leader. They are in. We have a lot in leadership role.
Yeah.
We've got in the Igbo society today women who are presidents of organizations that are mixed, presidents of women organizations. In the Congress of Igbo leaders, it is Congress. Every person is welcome, and we work in synergy. Our women cannot be marginalized, because think about it, the women are our mothers.
Yeah, I know.
So when you marginalize a woman, it has a direct impact on the children. If a woman is not happy, your children will not be happy. They will not be they will be unkept.
Of course, yes.
So my father taught me to make sure that I am good at home before I go outside. So you have to treat your women with respect, with dignity, with love and patience. Women demand patience.
Yeah.
And sometimes we, the men, have been gifted with the gift of silence.
Yeah.
You must know when to use the gift of silence and don't have a banter with your wife. So in the Igbo society, we are trained and we are taught to respect and honor our women.
The key word I've got there is the training.
Yes.
It's happening.
It's happening in every family, yes.
Yeah.
In our culture, we call the women nne. Nne means mother.
Ah, okay.
So once a woman is married, we call her nne. She becomes a mother to the community. So we do not discriminate against our women.
Okay. I'll yes, like take your word for that. I just want to thank you so much for coming to the show and telling us about the show. Although we've gone through the political structure, obviously, as Nigeria, there's always happened that way. That there's no way we can discuss Nigeria without venting a bit to discuss the political side of Nigeria, which is affecting everybody in Nigeria. I just want to thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
I do hope that you'll be with us again next week for another edition of Africa Speaks. May God bless you.
Thank you so much for having me.